Hi everyone. So today I'm back with yet another TikTok reaction. This time I will be reacting to a TikTok made by the account Phlin Martin. Now the video in question is a little bit old. It came out like over a year ago, but I have been wanting to talk about this video ever since I saw it. Like it has been sitting at the back of my mind for like over a year, but I can't actually show you the original video or the account that it came from because as of making this video, everything has been taken down and you'll soon see why as I play that video. But the video in question went absolutely viral before it got taken down. It had like 10, 11 million views, thousands of comments, lots of stitches, parodies, commentaries. Like even to this day, if you were to look up Phlin Martin on TikTok, the first thing that comes up is this video, or rather the stitches, duets or parodies that people made of this video, which is why I was very easily able to find a re-upload of it. Like Phlin has been immortalized as this video. Even after the original video being taken down, TikTok banning his account, his image has forever been tainted by this video. That's how bad it was. But despite its infame and all the attention it received, it only seemed to remain in the confines of TikTok. Like I personally haven't seen anyone here on YouTube talking about it, which is a shame because as you probably know, you can only upload short form videos on TikTok. You can only upload videos that are up to 10 minutes long, which limits the depth of analysis and response that could be made. And despite this video only being 3 minutes long, there is so much that can be said, so that's what I want to do today. And also, Phlin is Australian, so I just feel that I have an obligation to comment on this. Before I get into it though, a bit of a content warning. I would be talking about things like essay throughout this video, hopefully nothing too graphic, but still wanted to give a heads up in case somebody needs it.
Firstly, apologies to any girls that I've offended. Whatever, like, I'm just taking the piss. Sorry if you're upset. Sincerely.
Okay, we're already off to a great start.
I do have like a genuine question, and like please answer this like with respect because I'm asking it with respect.
All right then, let me sit up straight, stretch out a little bit. Okay, let's hear it.
Is it actually okay to be like a white straight male?
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry for losing it a little bit there, but yes, it is okay to be white, it is okay to be straight, it is okay to be a man. There is nothing wrong with being those things. Throughout the video, Phlin never actually provides any examples or backs up his points with any evidence, so it's hard to know what exactly he is talking about. In fact, as you'll see more of this video, it becomes obvious that Phlin didn't actually prepare anything at all. He just pulled out his phone in his car and just started recording out of nowhere. But for me, Phlin's genuine question reminds me of the "It's okay to be white" slogan popularized by 4chan back in the late 2017 to 2018. The slogan gained popularity in the far-right circles of the internet, then making its way into Australia through big Australian YouTubers like Isaac Butterfield and politicians like Pauline Hanson, who harped on about anti-white racism. Even the Australian Prime Minister at the time, Scott Morrison, backed Pauline Hanson, later on retreating back by saying that it was regrettable. But the whole point of the slogan was to deliberately choose an inoffensive and innocuous statement that would be understood by leftists and people who know white supremacist tactics, but not by the vast majority of people, the liberals and the centrists. That way, if you speak out against it, you're the one that gets seen as crazy and unhinged. Like, what? You don't think it's okay to be white? But it's not really the slogan that is the problem, is it? Rather, it's the context behind it. It's the fact that this slogan has its ties to neo-Nazis and white supremacists. The fact that the former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard David Duke promoted this slogan. The fact that currently this slogan is marked as a hate symbol by the Anti-Defamation League. The fact that the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville happened in the very same year this slogan came out. You know, the same rally where a person was fatally injured, where people showed up with swastika flags holding tiki torches while chanting this.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
should tell you exactly how okay it is to be white. A lot of this misinterpretation comes from having a very elementary, preliminary level of understanding what racism is. Many people don't actually know what racism is. They think it's just, judging a person based on the color of their skin rather than the content of their character, which, yeah, is still racism. But there is also a systemic aspect of racism. The fact that we live in a system that is designed to hold back Black and people of color at every facet of life. It's about upholding systems of power and oppression, and currently straight white men uphold the most power in our society. I mean, even within Europe, which, is seen as like the pinnacle of whiteness and Western civilization and all that stuff, the concept of whiteness, who can or cannot be considered white, has always shifted and changed. At one point, Italians were not considered white. Germans were not considered white, which is pretty ironic if you really think about it. Like in the 17th century, Germans looking to immigrate into the United States were called aliens by Benjamin Franklin, and more notably, the Irish were not considered white. The Irish, even though they were white and were from Europe, were not considered white because of their character. A lot of anti-Irish propaganda, for example, would portray them as these brutish, drunk apes who were uncivilized. So whiteness is not really about the color of your skin or what part of the world you're from. It's about power. It's about being exclusive. It's ideology, not biology. It's an abstract concept of purity that gets narrower and narrower in order to oppress and divide people. So, to answer Phlin's question, yes, it is okay to be white, it's okay to be straight, it's okay to be a man, but under what context? What's your intent with you asking this question? Because when we, the leftists, the social justice warriors or whatever, talk about things like white privilege or the patriarchy or heteronormativity, we do so to even out the playing field, to understand how this system benefits some while harming others. But when white supremacists, neo-Nazis question whether it is okay to be white, come up with slogans and posters saying that it's okay to be white, it's to paint themselves as this victim that needs to be protected, that needs their own ethno-state, where they can uphold superiority, uphold power over minorities or anyone who is not like them, that needs to secure the existence of their people and a future for their children. I mean, if you really want to know whether it's okay to be white, just go read a history book.
I hit the gym and I preach being like a fucking legend.
Okay, good for you, bud. Legend for people outside of Australia that are watching basically means like a good, great person. Like if you want to compliment someone, you can just say, "You're a legend, mate." Hopefully it goes without saying that you don't have to be white to be a legend. You don't even have to be a man. Like I've been called a legend before and I am neither of those things. So I'm really confused as to why he's bringing this up.
And I speak like that just to take the piss. But in reality, I'm probably a nice guy if you actually met me.
Again, Phlin doesn't really give me much to work with here. So I'm just going to go off by my own interpretations. Phlin going off about how he's just a nice guy makes me think of the "not all men" slogan or the hashtag that men bring up when women talk about experiencing abuse, hate, or discrimination under the hands of men in order to dismiss them. Now, not only do the "not all men" argument hold up when you look at the statistics, with 1 in 4 women experiencing sexual violence, 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence, and hundreds of women being killed by their intimate partners every day, but I'm not going to bore you with statistics because I know those tend to go over people's heads. Instead, what I will do is focus on this one article. Now, this article is quite old. It came out back in 1999, but basically the gist of it is that Ronald Schanneberger, a man from Indiana, experienced the death of his father 3 years ago, back in 1996, and from what I know, he passed away from natural causes, and he wanted his girlfriend, Amy, to support him in person through the grieving process. But Amy, during this time, was at vacation on a cruise ship, so she couldn't just leave to be with him. She was literally in the middle of the ocean. Schanneberger harbored that resentment, held that grudge for years, and took revenge in the most inhuman way possible by suffocating his 7-month-old son to death. Schanneberger said he planned to make Amy feel the way he did when his father died. He married her, got her pregnant, allowed time for her to bond with the child, and then took his life. This is why the not all men argument doesn't work. Every time a woman comes forward with her story, the response is always, well, why didn't you just leave? You should have chosen better. It's not all men. Well, we know it's not all men. You're not telling us anything new when you say that. What we don't know is which ones are like that. In the case of this article, this man lied to her for years. He pretended to be in love with her, proposed to her, married her, had a child with her, all while he was secretly plotting and planning his revenge over something that she didn't even have much control over in the first place. He intentionally waited 7 months for her to bond with her son in order to hurt her in the maximum way possible when he murdered their child. How is she supposed to know that? How was she supposed to see any of this coming? It reminds me of this tweet that I saw a couple years back that said, no, not all men are violent against women, but yes, all men have to navigate a world where those who are look the same as those who aren't. So yeah, I agree it's not all men, as I'm sure there are still some good men out there, and you might as well be a nice guy, but I think I speak for most women when I say that we'd still rather be safe than sorry.
But, like, seriously, like, what's actually wrong with being, like, fit, healthy, not gay? Like, there's nothing wrong with being gay, but what's wrong with not being gay? Like, I mean, without, like, people like me, you don't reproduce. Like, society doesn't fall apart. Like,
is reproduction the only thing that you can do? Like, is that all you bring to the table? And no, gay people can reproduce. There are a lot of options available now for same-sex couples. Now there is even technology available where you can turn bone marrow cells into sperm cells. So you don't need sperm at all. Like, 2 women can have a biological child that will have 2 mothers and no father. But I guess by reproduction, Phlin here is talking about the traditional way of reproducing with a cis man and a cis woman. But even then, I'm really confused as to what does being white has to do with this. Like, you do realize that men of other races can reproduce, right?
if we're in a club and like there's like some feminist dude who's like fat, overweight, doesn't know how to fight, and he comes up to you and slaps you on the ass, who are you coming to get to help you? Someone who's jacked and fucking like goes to the gym, enjoys having testosterone in the system.
No, absolutely not. Again, I think I speak for most women here when I say this, but if I were ever in this situation, the last person I would go to is someone who has testosterone in their system. I would much rather go to the other women around me, who I know that I can turn to, that I can rely on, that I can feel safe with, because women just know, okay? We have that instinct. We will literally pretend that we have known somebody for years if it means to get them out of danger. And this is not just me saying it. There are studies that show that female victims of abuse, sexual assault, or domestic violence actually prefer to get help from women. Statistically speaking, women are more likely to intervene than men in situations like Phlin is describing. This is what I don't get from people like Phlin Martin, how they go on about, oh, if there's no men around, who is going to protect you? Protect me from who?
So it's a little bit inconvenient when you go, oh, like, fuck men, don't need men. Oh, but I'm about to get into trouble. Man, you do that. Oh, I need money, man.
Again, like I mentioned earlier, women don't go to men when they get into trouble. They typically go to other women. And about women needing money from men, no, I can work. I can get my own money. I don't go to a man for money, just like many other women who at this day and age are far more educated and are making more money than most men. But even if, say, a woman were relying on her husband for money and is staying at home and is not working, isn't this what you wanted? Like, I never understood why the women that are so-called gold diggers receive so much hate, especially by men. I mean, who set that system up? Who decided that men will be the providers and women would need to stay at home? Who prevented women from working and getting their own money all these years? Who set the society up in a way where women would need to rely on a man in order to survive? It was you! This is what you wanted. This is what you'll get when you ask for a traditional, submissive, feminine woman. If you want a traditional, submissive, non-feminist woman, you have to be a traditional man as well who provides. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Like, not to sound like Andrew Tate, but like...
Okay, if you're going to start your sentence like that, whatever you say after that is going to be pointless. Like, I may as well just stop listening to you right now.
It's all very convenient, depending on like, oh, men are only good for that. But as soon as they start opening their little fucking useless, stupid mouths, I don't want to fucking hear it.
Again, who is saying that? Nobody is saying that. He is literally sitting in his car, making up scenarios in his head, and then getting mad at the things that he himself has made up.
It's like, well, no one wants to hear you, Abigail. I don't know why I said that name.
Okay, that was totally a Freudian slip. Like, I would not be surprised if he had his heart broken by an Abigail.
No one wants to hear you, Brenda, yap on about your life, because everyone's got a shit, like, everyone's had past trauma, everyone's had shit happen. It's how you react to it. Like, everyone's gone through shit.
Now, yes, I agree that everybody has their own issues and problems in their lives and all that stuff. Everyone's had a past trauma, everyone's gone through shit. Alright, so at least we started off by agreeing on something for once. But where we do part ways is how you deal with those issues. Because from what it seems like, again, Phlin doesn't actually say it, so I'm just going to assume here. But according to Phlin, if you have had past trauma, issues, problems, you should just shut up and deal with it and stop making it everybody else's problem. But for me, I'm all about systemic changes. I'm all about getting to the root of the issue and to understand where and how it's coming from. Say for something like sexual assault, with 1 in 4 women experiencing completed or attempted rape. In Australia, the rate for police recorded sexual assault for women being 7 times as high as for men, with an overwhelming majority of those perpetrators being men, 97%. There is something greater at play here. Even speaking from personal experience, I don't think I know a single woman that has not had any negative experiences with men. Literally every woman I know, myself very much included, have experienced some kinds of violence, assault, or abuse under the hands of men. So yeah, if you have issues and problems, you should try your best to work on them and better yourselves for sure. But there comes a point when you look at the statistics, the fact that every woman you know have had similar experiences, you have to realize that this is not an individual problem that you could just dismiss by going, oh, everybody has problems, it's how you react to it. No, this is a pattern. It's a problem with the system. It's this patriarchal society that we live in with toxic masculinity, how men and boys are raised in this society and all that kind of stuff. Also, this sort of mentality where you're telling people to just deal with it and it's how you react to it can very easily segue into victim blaming, where you're just blaming women for their own abuse, whether it be pointing to what they were wearing or how much they were drinking or anything that she did to bring it upon herself. And I don't think I even need to get into why that's wrong.
Fucking, you can march all you want. You can dye your hair any color you want. You can grow your armpits out as long as you want. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, you clearly do, or else you wouldn't even be making this video and getting really worked up over it as well.
But you're not doing anything. All you're doing is making yourself unappealing as fuck. And I say that politely, like I'm getting a bit worked up, but holy fuck, take a joke.
Okay, I'm just going to skip over the bit where he's telling us to relax and take a joke, even though he himself is breaking a sweat over there in his car. But the part where you said feminists are making themselves look unappealing as fuck, unappealing to who exactly? Because beauty is subjective. I personally like the sort of alternative, gothic, androgynous look that some feminist left-leaning people go for, with colored hair, bold makeup, tattoos and piercings. I'm into it, honestly, and I'm not afraid to admit it. It might not be for you, and that's completely fine. But why does it matter? Why do they need to be attractive to you in order for you to respect them?
Like, how the fuck do you expect to get on with your life if every little thing like, oh, he said this, like, what happens if you get fucking punched in the face?
Yep, and it just cuts off there. That's pretty much it. So as you can probably tell, Phlin did not really prepare anything before hitting record and was just all over the place in terms of what he wanted to say. But I don't just want to end the video right here. I like to analyze people and understand where they're coming from without excusing their behavior. So for the remainder of this video, I want to go on a bit of a tangent and talk about men. More specifically, why I think men like Phlin act the way they do. Like I said at the start, Phlin's video absolutely blew up before it got removed from TikTok. People were making all sorts of responses to it. But what I did have a problem with is that a majority of those responses focused only on the question that Phlin asked at the start on if it's okay to be a straight white male. Now, I know that TikTok has a limit on how long of a video you can post, so it's just easier to speak on the most inflammatory point, but it still bothered me how a lot of those videos that I saw just focused on the part about him being white and spoke solely about race. But as we've seen by the rest of Phlin's video, most of his grievances involve women and are more so about the unique challenges, issues relating to gender that men are facing currently, so I think it's worth talking about that a bit. If you have spent any time in the feminist, leftist, political spaces of the internet over the past couple months, you may have come across this graphic pointing out the ideological divide among the sexes. This is significant because compared to previous generations where both men and women tend to become more liberal as time goes on, with men lagging behind slightly compared to women, for our generation, the difference is much more stark, as the graphics show country by country that as women become more liberal and progressive, the men not only lag behind, but sometimes even revert back to conservative values. Many point to the rise of content under the genre of manosphere as the culprit, with prominent figures like Andrew Tate, Sneeko, Fresh and Fit, and so on, who have gained a substantial amount of popularity over the last couple years, promoting conservative and traditional ideas to masculinity and gender. But blaming Andrew Tate for the current state of masculinity would be confusing the forest for trees, because after all, Andrew Tate doesn't live in a bubble. Yes, he may have manipulated the algorithm to get to the level of fame that he currently has, but it is the people, the men who responded to him, who interacted with his content, who propped him up to where he is right now. Rather, many people, especially women, are currently waking up to how unfair the whole dynamic of heterosexual relationship is. Heterosexual relationships under patriarchy is fundamentally unequal. Say you have a man and a woman in a traditional heterosexual relationship, with the man providing and paying all the bills while the woman stays at home. If you are the man, all you have to do is go to work, pay all the bills, rent, mortgage, utilities, which is something that you still have to do even if you weren't in a relationship. But if you're the woman, you'd have to do all the household chores, cook, clean after yourself and your partner, do all the shopping, provide emotional support, and if you have children on top of that, you'd have to times that by however many children you have. You're the one that has to go through pregnancy and childbirth. The burden of childcare would predominantly fall onto you. You're the one that is expected to feed, clothe, bathe, care for your children. When your children are old enough to go to school, you're the one that is supposed to provide all the school supplies, get them to and from school, help them with their homework, and just be there for them to fall back on, all of which will exponentially increase your workload. And this is nothing new. It has been well documented that if you were to pay for the amount of labor homemakers do, it would cost at least $100,000 a year. And this is assuming the traditional arrangement, where the man actually provides and pays for everything. But the thing is, most women don't even get that stability at this day and age. Most women still have to work full-time on top of doing everything else. They have to split the bills 50-50 or even more. Their careers suffer once they have children, to the point some might even have to give up on their careers, dreams, aspirations in order to stay home. Honestly, as the man, the least that you can do in this situation is to pick up on childcare and do your share of housework, but most men don't even do that. They don't even bother to learn about the person that they're partnered with, their own children. At best, most men are emotionally distant and it's just there. Like a couple years ago, Jimmy Kimmel did a couple of street interviews where they asked men basic questions about their partners and children that has resurfaced, and it is astonishing how little some of these men know about their own families.
Close your eyes. Okay.
What color are your girlfriend's eyes?
They're like blue-green.
Dude, really?
Does your wife have any allergies?
Unknown. Could potentially have hay fever. We don't know.
Penicillin is like actually kind of deadly to me, so he should probably know that.
What is your wife's favorite meal?
Meal?
That's a hard one.
No, it's not.
Sushi.
Beer and pizza.
Oh, it
I
changes.
have a tattoo of it.
What are the names of your wife's grandparents?
Ooh. Boy, that's been a long time ago. I don't remember.
Should he know the names of your grandparents?
Yes.
Can you name his grandparents?
Perky, Ray, Aline, and Lee.
What are the names of her siblings?
She only has one, and green card there.
You better answer it.
I know. I better. She's gonna be really mad at me because we were just down there over Christmas too.
Sue.
Sue and Danny.
What song did you do your first dance to at your wedding?
I have no idea.
And when did you get married?
March 26th. December 26th.
We're out here today asking dads how much they know about their kids. So I'm going to ask you some very basic information about your son.
Okay.
You're going to tell us if your dad was right or wrong, okay?
All right, you got it.
All right, first question. When is your son's birthday?
Oh no. All right. I'm guessing here. I'm saying March the something.
So you said it's March something?
Yeah, March the 13th.
September 1st.
That was that close.
Who is your daughter's best friend?
You met her today.
Veronica.
No! Stella.
What is your daughter's middle name?
Celine.
No. My name it's Julia.
What is your daughter's blood type?
We don't know.
Sir, you're going to have to forfeit the shirt. Has your daughter ever played an instrument?
No.
That's wrong. I played the piano.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
How long did you play the piano for?
Ooh, like 5 years?
What is the name of your son's school?
Taylor Run.
No. What is it? Liberty High School.
Okay.
Is your son allergic to anything?
I think to not strawberry, blue, something berry, so he can finish
Are you allergic to something berries?
No.
it. Yeah.
No.
Are you allergic to anything?
Penicillin.
This is a common trope that pops up time and time again about men being uninvolved in their families' lives. We see it all the time in the media, in movies, in TV shows. And I know here they're trying to play it off as a joke with all the sound effects and laughing tracks, but if you think about it, it's not really funny, is it? With that, it begs the question, if these men cared that little about their partners to the point they couldn't even be bothered to learn about their basic interests, their hobbies, their birthdays, even things like allergies and blood type, which are life and death stuff that could kill somebody, then why are they even with them? It's because of the things that I mentioned earlier. It's the benefits, it's the free labor, it's the services that you'd have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to get otherwise. The patriarchal system that we live in is designed to benefit men at the expense of women. If you as a man get married to a woman, your life changes for the better. You become healthier, you live longer, you get paid more, especially if you have children, because you're seen as more respectable and mature than unmarried men. Whereas as a woman, when you decide to be a wife, to marry a man, you also sign up to be a private chef, a housekeeper, a nurse, a nanny, a maid, a personal assistant, a therapist, an escort, and so much more. And what happens when your labor dries up? What happens if you get sick? What happens if you go through a difficult pregnancy? What happens if you need to be on bed rest and can't have sex anymore? Then you get abandoned while he finds himself another woman that can give him those services. And look, I'm not saying all this to degrade men or to be a bitter misandrist. I know you people from the manosphere love crying about misandry, but it is the truth. Everything that I've said so far have been well studied. In heterosexual relationships, women are 6 times more likely to be abandoned by their male partners when they get diagnosed with a terminal illness compared to men. I mean, just put yourself in the shoes of these women for a moment. If you are a wife or a girlfriend to any of these men, for all the time that he is slacking off, that he is spending without having to know about what school his own children go to or what their hobbies are or when their birthdays are, you have to pick it up. And let's just call it what it is. These men are abusive. They're being abusive to their partners and children. You don't have to be a full-out wife beater to be considered abusive. Being negligent, being emotionally distant, being absent is also abuse. In that way, you're essentially a single parent. You have to do everything, all the parenting, all the housework. If your partner is not contributing, not doing his share of childcare and housework, and you're the one that has to pick up after him, it's like having another child on top of the children that you may already have. Why would you want that? But the thing is, now you don't have to put up with this. In the West, at least, women have rights now that we're fought for. We have the right to legally divorce, to get child support, we can open our own bank accounts, we can work, we can get an education, we can have our own money. You know, the wage gap is still a thing, the pay is still not equal, but it is still good enough to be able to live on your own. We can live by ourselves, we can drive, we can have our own cars, we can have our own apartments, our own homes, we can own land, we can have our own properties. Single women are actually more likely to own homes now than single men. We are the happiest demographic. You know, single child-free women are the happiest subgroup of the population. Again, everything that I've said so far is nothing new. Women have been complaining about the unequal distribution of labor at home for generations. But the response has always been, well, it's not all men. You have to choose better, make better choices. Well, that's exactly what we're doing now. We are choosing better. We are waiting longer to get married and to have children. And some of us are opting out of partnerships altogether. Whether it be through the decentering and divesting movement in the United States, predominantly being led by black women, or the 4B movement in South Korea, women have shown time and time again that we don't really need men. We can thrive on our own. Even in the past, during the supposed good old days, women went happy in this arrangement. Every time someone reminisces about the good old days of the past where men worked and women stayed at home, it makes me think of this short story that I've read called Story of an Hour by Kate Chopping, written back in 1894. The story follows a woman named Mrs. Mallard who, after receiving the news of her husband's death, spends an hour sitting in the armchair of her room staring out the window, fantasizing about her newly widowed life. She daydreamed about how she could finally live for herself, how the spring days and summer days and all sorts of days that would be her own, how she was finally drinking the elixir of life, only to get the news that her husband is actually alive. After all that daydreaming, when she finally sees her husband again standing at the front door, she literally has a heart attack out of shock and just dies on the spot. When I first read this story, it left me traumatized. How she kept whispering and saying to herself that she is finally free, this repetition of free, 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 body and soul free, only to have that taken away from her in the most cruel way possible, it left me scarred. It made me wonder how many women back then were literally looking forward to their husbands dying so that they could finally live for themselves. This sort of traditional arrangement where women were essentially held as hostages, it was not okay then and is not okay now. But the difference is that now we have the right and the choice to leave these toxic relationships. We can finally live for ourselves now without our husbands having to die. But on the flip side, all of this is causing men to face a unique problem because now they actually have to work to have access to a woman. They have to put in work to seek relationships with women and then to maintain those relationships. They actually have to develop a personality, have hobbies, values, do some inner work. They have to treat women like human beings and as equal partners. Unlike previous generations, they can't just show up and hand us a paycheck and call it. That's not going to fly today. Now, if they want to seek partnerships, get a girlfriend, get married, they have to make an effort and prove themselves to be worthy of that. It reminds me of this Twitter thread by the account Cowboy Domo that I want to read out. I do have to warn you though that the language in this is quite coarse, but that's what makes it potent and it sums up the situation pretty well. Men have to now get women to like them, and a lot of men aren't likable. Let's be honest about the situation. How many generations of men in history have had to get women to like them in order to have women be with them? We're probably the first to ever have this, so nobody knows what to do. We're 2 generations removed from a woman not being able to have a bank account without a man, 3 to 4 removed from when they couldn't buy a home, couldn't work, couldn't get educated, they couldn't do shit without a man. Women quite literally used to need a N-word, so they have to be with somebody regardless of if they like the man or not. Today they truthfully don't. They can leave your ass and be perfectly fine. Hell, some of them might be better off. Your grandfather was probably a horrible husband. Like, at best, he was probably emotionally distant and patriarchal. N-words is to have 2 whole families miles apart of each other and was emotionally abusive to both. That's not flying today, and truthfully speaking, it shouldn't. A lot of men want the same relationships they saw their families had, but never thought to ask if the women were happy in those situations. The real answer is a lot of them weren't. So fast forward to today, where a woman, truthfully speaking, don't need your ass. You gotta come harder than your ancestors. Gotta have some substance. We are currently at the brink of something revolutionary. We're the first generation of women to have as much freedom and rights as we currently have. This is something that our mothers didn't have, our grandmothers didn't have, our great-grandmothers didn't have, and if things continue as they are, it could change the entire dynamic of heterosexual relationships altogether. And a lot of men are just not coping very well with this change. A lot of them are just having a huge existential crisis right now, with women having enough rights to be on their own and the rise of technology where you don't even need sperm anymore to reproduce. A lot of these men are feeling redundant, they're feeling insecure about their place and purpose in this world, and don't get me wrong, it's not going to be easy for some of these men. Just like women, they might be the first ever man in their family to actually have to do inner work. Some of them might need therapy, they might need to break generational cycles. I mean, Andrew Tate himself, the current face of manosphere, who Phlin unironically referred to in his video, is an example of this. If you listen to the way Tate talks about his father, it becomes very clear that his father was an abusive narcissist, and Tate and his brother are just carrying on that cycle of abuse in a much more ginormous scale.
My father was a disciplinarian. He was also in the Air Force. If I fucked up, he hit me. He never beat me. He never abused me. But there was certainly a realm in which if I fucked up, I get slapped. It only happened twice maybe, ever. I'll give you a very quick example. I'll tell you a very quick story that surmises it. So they were still together when we moved to England. My father was still in America. He came over to visit. And my mom said to me a couple of days before he comes, your dad's coming. We're going to go get a haircut. And I was must have been about 12 or something. Went to get a haircut. We went to our normal hairdresser. Hairdresser wasn't there. Got some other hairdresser, cut my hair, whatever. And when we got back to the house, my mom's like, I don't like how she cut your hair. She cut your hair wrong. She cut your hair wrong. And I'm only 12, right? So I'm like, yeah, she cut my hair wrong. She cut my hair wrong. So when my dad came, my dad turns up. He's only there for like a couple hours. I haven't seen him in nearly 6 months. I said, oh, yeah. My mom said, I hate the way they cut his hair. And my dad, and I said, yeah, they cut my hair wrong today. And my dad lost his temper. He said, what the fuck are you doing? You're raising my sons to bitches? What the fuck are you talking about haircuts? I leave you here with my boys and you're talking about, tell them to worry about their haircut? They're fucking men. Who cares about their hair? Their haircut doesn't matter. When they grow into men, no one's going to care what their hair looks like. Their haircuts are stupid. And mom's like, well, no, Emery, it's just, she cut it wrong. And then my dad was like, listen, I trust you with my boys and you fucking cut their hair wrong. So they got in some big argument. So I'd only seen my dad for 3 hours at this point in fucking 6 months. They got in a big argument. My mom kicked him out of the house. So he left the house, right? So he went to the hotel. And then the next day he called me. He goes, I can't come to that house. Your mom doesn't want me there. Come to me. And I came to him and we went to the hairdresser and I was only 12. So this is a traumatic experience, right? I cried my eyes out. I don't know why I cried, but I was upset. He goes, come with me, boys. I was like, why? He goes, you'll learn when you're older. You're going to understand when you're older. We're going to shave your head. And I was like, I don't want to shave my head. He goes, listen, you're 12. You're a kid. Nobody cares about your hair. Come here. Sent me down the thing. Had my head shaved by the thing. When I went home, my mom went fucking crazy. This is the story she recited to his death about how crazy my dad was. His dad, Emery's crazy. He made him shave his head. He's so crazy. That is so crazy. But when I shaved my head, my dad said, listen, you're going to grow into a man and you're going to learn that there's so many things that society expects of you. And there's so many things that people expect of you. And there's so many things people are going to care about. And the last thing on the list is going to be your haircut. They're not going to give a solitary fuck. And I'm not going to have you being raised thinking your haircut matters.
But instead of actually doing that work and bettering themselves, a lot of these men are just choosing to lash out. be it online with them engaging with figures from the manosphere, spending money on them, or making their own content, or in real life with cases of femicides rising over the last 2 decades and the Supreme Court of the United States rolling back rights through overturning Roe v. Wade. Obviously, all of this is causing women to stay even further away from men. Instead of actually listening to what women want, they are lashing out, throwing a tantrum, passing all these bullshit laws. In South Korea, for example, where the ideological gap is the most extreme, women have given up on having children altogether, leading to their birth rate plummeting to be the lowest in the entire world. The South Korean government have passed all sorts of incentives, provided financial aid, childcare, education, healthcare. They have done everything except to, of course, listen to women. This article goes straight to the source, and they've said it crystal clear that it's a lack of dateable men that will share the chores and the childcare equally that is putting these women off from pursuing relationships altogether. With women becoming more and more equal, a lot of these men feel victimized, they feel oppressed. They can't fathom that they actually have to change and evolve now in order to get what they want. In Phlin's video, for example, how at the start he asked if it's okay to be a straight white man, he's making it sound like as if there's some secret agenda against straight white men, but there is not. You know, nobody is attacking you for being straight white men. Nobody's coming after your rights, nobody's taking anything away from you. What we have now is equality, where you actually have to treat us as human beings that are your equal. But you know, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. But for me, the saddest thing about Phlin's video is that he was only 19 years old when he made this, so he was still a teenager. Yet the kind of stuff that he's saying, you would expect this coming from some middle-aged man, not a 19-year-old. It is sad how he's so young yet are already this deep into conservative ideology, and the worst part is that he isn't even the youngest when it comes to the kind of demographic that watch this kind of content. If you look into the average viewer that consumes this content with Andrew Tate, Sneaker, Fresh and Fit, they're not adults, they're not teenagers. Some of these are literal children, middle school age boys who could not be any older than 12 or 13. As for Phlin though, he is now back on TikTok with another account, and it seems like he has been laying off the political stuff for now. This isn't the only video that he made of that kind with his old account. He was putting a lot of content like this, just this video in particular blew up. He also has a YouTube channel where he posts your typical vlogging, traveling, lifestyle content. I haven't seen much of his new stuff, but from what it looks like, he's doing well. He's having fun with his friends, he seems to have a solid support system around him, and that's really the best that we can hope for when it comes to people like this. Going forward, I do hope to see more analysis and understanding when it comes to content like this. It is tempting to make fun of people like Phlin. That's one of the reasons why his video blew up to the level that it did. People were just laughing at him. But doing so downplays the seriousness and the harm that it can have. Just as of making this video, a man in the Bondi Junction Mall in Sydney brutally stabbed 5 women to death. Several others were injured, including a 9-month-old baby girl. Security camera footage clearly shows him targeting women. People were blaming all sorts of things at the height of this attack. They first said that it was a Middle Eastern terrorist, but then when they found out that it was a white Australian man, they blamed it on mental health. But what stood out to me in particular was when his dad came forward saying that he wanted a girlfriend but couldn't get one because of his poor social skills, which might have led him to attacking women. This is an epidemic, and if this can happen in Australia, where we have gun control in a wealthy, safe suburb next to the beach, it can happen anywhere. While I don't know what the solution is, and I don't think I should be the one telling men what to do, I think this is something that men need to come together for and figure it out themselves. What I do wish to see more of is people addressing the root cause of this issue instead of looking for something to blame. It's easy to point fingers at the manosphere, at people like Andrew Tate, Sneaker, Fresh and Fit, Gavin Samuels with their large platforms and the influence that they have, being like, that is the problem and we need to get rid of that. And while I'm not downplaying the harm that they can cause, manosphere is not the problem. It's rather a symptom of a much larger problem. And until that problem is addressed, it's not going to solve anything. It may have a temporary effect, but just like Hydra's heads, it's going to be replaced by something else. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me for today. Thanks for watching, especially if you made it till the end. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll hopefully see you in my next one. Bye!